Welcome to Two Guys Watching People Make Laws, where we break down, today's episode is episode 2, where we break down the Planning Commission meeting of March 9th, 2023. And a little disclaimer, we are not professionals, and we mean no disrespect to any of the volunteers here, or anyone in government for that matter. We're just trying to make light of this subject and help with accountability and education for the public. Without further ado, let's watch the episode.
The traffic study.
Okay. So before, in fact, I'd like to make sure that the Planning Commission, if you have any questions regarding Kate's presentation, this would be a good time to ask.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Victoria?
I have an inquiry.
Sure.
I would like to know what law or statute allows us to act as a legislative body while violating our bylaws.
Nailed it. So just for reference, we have edited this video a little bit. Right here, Victoria is really doing us a service and calling into question a couple violations that have occurred with the Planning Commission. And the first one is they've violated 8.5, the terms of office. Right now, the current chair, Tom Kay, is serving his 3rd year in a row as the chairman, and that's in direct violation. It says, no elected officer shall serve in that position for more than 2 consecutive years, but may be elected to serve again after 1-year hiatus.
Yeah, and this specific subject is a really interesting one because so many people have pointed out this fact in complaint and in person and directly to the Board of County Commissioners, and they don't seem to be reacting to those complaints. And you know, here we have somebody on the PC that is clearly contesting this fact. So let's see what happens.
You're not acting in this capacity. You're not acting as a legislative body. You're acting as a quasi-judicial body, first of all. And we will be getting to that part of the discussion later.
Okay, amend my.
So is that Carl speaking?
I think so, yeah, I think so. I think he's clarifying.
Well, is he allowed to give the PC legal advice?
I think he is there to take notes and offer his insight. He's got a lot of experience, so, you know, he's just letting them know what there is. And they are a quasi-judicial body, so their rule or their purview is to make decisions on law.
Inquiry. What laws or otherwise statute allows us to act as a quasi-judicial body without following our bylaws?
Who said we're not following our bylaws?
We're not following our bylaws in multiple ways right now.
We had a decision about that. Be happy to talk about that later. We have that on the agenda.
So that would be something.
But your assessment of violating the bylaws is not necessarily shared by all of us.
So can we focus on the proc?
I know I have another inquiry. What governs this body?
State statute.
State statute. And what part of state statute allows us to defy and violate our bylaws?
You said we're doing it. That's your opinion?
No, we can read
Do
our
you have a
bylaws.
legal opinion?
I've forwarded out an email to everyone here with references to laws and specific references.
So the one thing that I hate the most about debate is when somebody uses like the authority. You know, it's the argument of authority. What authority do you have to have an opinion? Like, anybody can have an opinion. That's your right to challenge somebody and say, "Oh, are you a lawyer?" When it has nothing to do with her being a lawyer or not. She's there asking a question and not getting a great answer.
And she's already gone through the interview process to determine that she has the capability or the qualities to act as a quasi-judicial member of a governing body. So that itself gives her the right to make a legal determination on what a law says or interpret law.
references to our bylaws
When
just
did
now,
you do that?
just before the meeting. This kind of
I
procedure,
haven't seen
10 minutes ago.
so 10 minutes ago, this kind of procedure doesn't require me to give
it. This
you
is
proper
terribly
notice.
disruptive. I mean,
I'm gonna call for a timeout here. The county attorney has weighed in. We do have the bylaws on the agenda. You have an applicant that is here, you have neighbors that are here, you have an agenda that is outlining the prop. So at that time, when the bylaws are part of the discussion, then the planning commission can entertain those questions. And the county attorney has also weighed in, so we will be forwarding that to you as well at that time.
So, the really interesting thing is, like, nobody's interested in actually answering this question. And the problem statement right now is she is concerned that people are acting outside of their current authority because they're in violation. So everything that they do is null and void and you're wasting all of these people's time because they're not acting lawfully and they're not acting legally.
And she made reference that this is a point of order or a parliamentary inquiry, and based on Robert's Rules of Order, you can interrupt a speaker at any time for that, and the chair has a duty to answer that question and address that inquiry. And this is a major inquiry here, so it's really disheartening to see it not giving the weight that it carries.
So in Robert's Rule of Order, if somebody interrupts, they're required to remedy.
Well, I'm not super familiar with Robert's rules, but on the simple rules of order, you can interrupt a speaker for a point of information to get information about the rules or parliamentary inquiry. And I believe that the chair has a duty to remedy or solve that issue, or at least make a motion on it. So make some sort of determination whether they table this for later or whether they refer it to a committee for investigation. They could deal with this in a proper way.
So as it stands right now, she's basically challenged them, presented an issue that doesn't allow them to continue moving forward, and they're just blowing it off.
Yeah, we'll see it get even farther here. So.
But again, I would like you to concentrate on the applicant because they are in the audience as well as other members of the community at this time.
I
Thank you.
understand that.
Thank you.
I do believe it's in the best interest of the community to hear that we are governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And in Robert's Rules of Order, when we are in violation of our bylaws, every decision we have is rendered null and void. Again, I have referenced all of this in the email I sent out. So before we can continue, this is a secondary incidental motion on the matter at hand. Anything we come to tonight may be rendered null and void because of the violations in our bylaws as they stand right now,
Okay.
as we are as a commission.
So that would be certainly something that somebody can determine at a later date if it may be rendered. So from that point on, I want to go back to PROC, because if you're right, then someone may be able to do that. For now, we're going to deal with the PROC, and if there's a controversy or somebody wants to contest what we do, that's something that can happen at a later date. So do you have any questions regarding the PROC presentation from staff?
Yes, I do. I do have a question.
Sure.
Your duties as chairman, as stated in our bylaws, is to uphold the laws and make sure that all steps.
I cannot stand giggling. I cannot stand it. And everybody's just like swinging in their chairs and their knees are bouncing and they have this posturing like, oh, we're just annoyed, rather than giving her the respect of attention. It's just disgusting to watch.
Taken by this commission are done dutifully. It also states that no matter takes precedence over an inquiry of information. So my inquiry is what law allows us to violate our bylaws and still act in a legislative capacity? And we are creating laws and voting on them. Is that not a legislative capacity? We are not a form of governmental branch right now?
No, we don't create laws.
You know, I would rather hear whatever the county attorney's opinion is on this, rather than to listen to Victoria, who I don't believe has a law degree and is just filing
Yes,
all
certainly
stuff.
not filing
So I like,
There's the argument of authority again. Let's
Yeah.
make her look bad for having an inquiry and an opinion.
Well, it's really sad that they can't, that nobody's standing up here and saying, hey, she's right, let's make sure we're following our laws because we've all gathered here today to make sure everyone else follows the laws. So it's really disheartening to see them treat her this way, and to have none of these people actually stand up and say, yes, we should follow our laws. They're deferring to a county attorney at the moment, and we'll see more of this kind of sidestepping instead of just addressing the problem right there. They could easily solve all these issues right here.
Yeah. So if you're watching and you're tuning in, this is live, and you're welcome to comment on the video, and we are reading it, so we can have a dialogue through there if you're wanting to ask any questions or add any comments. We have Ewelina in the comments. She says, why wasn't the attorney there? It was on the agenda. Well, he was on Zoom, I believe. If I'm not. Oh,
No,
well, no, he wasn't
there.
on Zoom.
They had
Yeah,
a
you're
written
right.
statement from him from earlier.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, to have a legal discussion about the bylaws of the legal entity. Yeah, so he should have been there. But I think somebody from the meeting was texting him, and then he put in his 2 cents on the fly.
I could go on with this. This is
Yeah,
just
so
crazy.
Robert's Rules of Order 33, Section 3 of Parliamentary Inquiry, to obtain information, the chair's duty is to answer such questions as it may assist in the appropriate motion, may assist in the rise of a proper point of order, and might help the commission to understand the parliamentary situation at hand. This is, as I stated, it's a
He's
How ridiculously disrespectful! Like, Tom K, look at what you're doing right now.
He's
If you're
whispering.
gonna if you're gonna watch this over and see what we're observing here, like, she is speaking to you, and look what you're doing. Like, come on.
a secondary implementary motion, which takes precedence over all other motions that they are connected with. It yields to, I have this all in the email. All can be applied in reference to any motion, parliamentary situation out of which they arise. All are in order, and if they require immediate attention, which they do require immediate attention. Okay, Constitution of Colorado states that the ethics in government is that we must hold the respect and the confidence of the people and shall carry out all of our duties for the benefit of the people. They shall therefore avoid anything that is a violation of the public trust or even creates a justifiable impression among the members of the public that trust is being violated.
So an impression. An impression.
I'm
That is
impressed.
all we need.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people think like, oh, we need to be able to point to this infraction and that infraction and this and that and that. If you are just looking bad, you made a bad impression on somebody. That's all you need.
Yeah, and one thing that is noted, I've read through their bylaws, they don't have an oath of office, and a lot of other counties require the planning commission to take an oath of office. So I think maybe that would be something that would help them be a little more serious here. This is pretty serious. I'm surprised at the way that this was handled.
By Robert's Rules of Order, when we are not following our bylaws, which I will now state because I guess the email didn't.
I thought it was.
Mr. Chairman, can I do a motion? We have put out this applicant more than once. And not because he hasn't come to the table with what needs to happen. He's come back several times. The last 2 weeks, my understanding is he's done a lot of due diligence to be able to have necessary information to us about lighting and hours of operation, etc. I truly believe, and I will agree with Steve, that this would be an attorney response if that's what she's asking for. I think we owe this man some respect and his time to show up yet again to present what he has found.
Yeah, and who cares about Victoria?
Yeah, well, she did kind of make a motion to defer to a committee, which is an okay thing to do here. The way she said it was, that's not more, you could have been a little more direct. Say, we don't have the tools we need to read our bylaws or understand them. Therefore, we need an attorney to interpret those rules.
Yeah, instead the voice is actually, this is all Victoria's fault, and it's making this guy's life harder because of her.
I want to say, if she's watching or watches this in the future, there's a lot of people, thousands of people, that really appreciate the courage that it took to stand up for the law here and stand up for what's right. So thank you, Victoria.
Yep. And the neighbors.
So, Mayor,
And neighbors, yes.
again,
And
just
total respect
to address,
to all of
Victoria,
them.
to address your concerns, they all may be legitimate, but you sent this to us months ago, so you really haven't given anybody, you haven't given anybody the chance to even review it.
Okay, point of order then. Point of order that we are breaking our bylaws right now.
Okay,
Right,
and it may, everything we may, that here may be in violation of that, and we're gonna still move forward. If someone so determines that our, whatever we do tonight can be rescinded, that'll happen at a later date, so I wanna move forward. Scott, do you have any questions for
The
Scott?
problem is we cannot move forward because we are governed
We
by
collectively as a group
parliamentary.
can decide what we wanna do.
We
We would
can't,
need an attorney to weigh in on what you're
or we can just
talking
read the
about,
law.
because you're claiming you're in violation.
Yeah, just read the laws.
They
Simple
could-
as that.
They could just read the laws, and
Yeah.
they should know the
Okay.
laws.
We're
you
violating.
know the law.
Okay, so we are constituted by the Colorado State Constitution.
I mean, I would weigh in, wait for the county attorney, I think Cindy said
And
it best.
preserve public
We've got to move
confidence,
this
we
forward.
must have the
We've got
benefit
to
of
hear the
specific
applicant.
standards that guide our conduct.
I don't know.
And a penalty mechanism to enforce those standards. Our specific standards that we abide by are Robert's Rules of Order. The penalty mechanism for when we don't abide by them is that everything we do is rendered null and void.
Look at everybody. Look at everybody. This guy sitting next to her isn't looking at her, and he's putting his hands like this. Like, Hardy is like hiding behind his hands, looking over. Even Jacob he's got a slouched position. He's looking at his computer. Nobody's looking at her, like, really, with any respectful attention. Like, it's like Normandy, and she's walking up the beach by herself, and he's got all these guns pointed at her.
Well, it's really weird because I think the chair's duty here is to take care of this situation, and he could have encouraged a discussion here, except that's not really happening. Everybody seems to be piling on Victoria, and there's not really a useful discussion happening here. And with Robert's Rules of Order, every person is allowed to speak once, and then until everybody's had a chance to speak. So this is really not good procedure.
Why didn't you send this earlier? I mean, give us a chance. Not everybody gets swift.
You have your chance.
Did you?
Not everyone has time, including myself. I live a very busy life. Time to fit in
So what
research
do you
on this kind
recommend
of
right
stuff.
now? What are you proposing that happen?
I recommend that we follow Robert's Rules of Order and we discuss the violations that are in place right now, as is our dutiful job
I'm not saying-
on this
I'm
commission.
not saying I'm with you or against you. I'm just saying, we brought these people in here, had been, last 2 weeks would have been great to
And like I
give,
said, all
a
of us,
little bit of a heads up.
I
Just
agree.
to not waste everybody's time, I mean, he's
agree.
trying to do a job too. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, and I
I
don't wanna repeat
apologize
stuff
for the
either.
inconvenience to the
It's
members
just-
that showed up to
you're
this
throwing-
meeting, but as it
You're
stands,
throwing fuel on a
this
fire,
is in the best of his interest, and anything that we decide tonight,
Well, I'm sure he would have loved for you to tell him other than right
And
now.
I disagree with you that
So he was notified in person at the public hearing multiple times that he was in violation of the bylaws, and actually, when they violated the bylaws, I believe on February 8th, they were made known that this was in violation of their bylaws at that time. So it seems ridiculous that all these people are claiming that they were blindsided by this motion, and really, they should have a discussion on the motion, and that's what Victoria just asked for. I would ask for a proper discussion on the violations. I think she's talking about two. We'll hear that in a second, but there's more than one violation here, and these people should just have a discussion about it. If they're really gonna determine how everyone else in the county follows the law, isn't there a proper procedure for that?
What you're saying is correct, so I think we should move forward.
You can disagree all you want,
That's
but I can
fine.
state
We
law.
can say,
not
let's
gonna
agree to
vote.
disagree. Let's agree to disagree, we're gonna move forward.
We bring this to a
That's how
close
we're gonna work it.
and move this conversation forward. And if there is such a thing as closure under Robert's rules,
So there's a motion, following Robert's Rules of Order, there is a motion on the table. Sydney made a motion to proceed with PROG. Was there a second to that?
I
motion?
seconded that.
Here's the thing, no motion takes precedence over a parliamentary inquiry, and it must
So
be
what is
done.
you are not a parliamentarian, you're not an
In
attorney.
Robert's.
We're gonna move.
There he goes again with the authority.
Dude,
It's so irritating.
It's really rude because if they need an attorney to interpret every single law, what is the purpose of their board? Why
Yeah.
are they even there?
Yeah, what does everybody need to bring their attorney to do the job of a PC?
That's ridiculous. This PC's bylaws, I have them here. I understand them very well. They're very simple language. It's 11 pages. It says clearly, no elected officer shall serve in that position for more than 2 years. That's very simple.
Yeah.
If they would have a real discussion about this right now and say, hey, let's read this. Okay, Victoria, let's all read this section right now and get on the same page and then make a vote. Do we agree or disagree that we're in violation? What is going on here? Actually?
Yeah, so one thing I forgot to mention was 5 hours before this meeting, A4LL, our group, actually sent a complaint formally about this very subject. So to say that they weren't noticed or they weren't aware of this being a problem, absolute lunacy. I would say maybe 4 or 5 people at the hearing, the BOCC hearing, mentioned Tom K being in violation, and he needs to be held accountable for not doing business correctly. And this isn't new, and Victoria isn't bringing this up for the first time.
No.
So to say that, oh, it's so inconvenient, is absolute lunacy and a lie. They did not get blindsided.
Order, every single one of us, as
Let's
members
take a
of the
vote.
commission, has a right
Let's take
to
a vote.
debate, to bring forth a motion. This is a secondary
We're
instance
not
of motion,
talking.
which means that you cannot override it, you do not have to second it, and it must be dealt with before.
This is not
you
a-
can-
Can you-
We recognize that there's a
Well,
last
the question is, would you allow-
We have a
Thank you.
motion and a second. We have a motion and a second,
Okay,
and we've noted your issue, and we still have a motion and a second. Is there any
okay,
further
parliamentary
discussion?
inquiry and request for
Victoria.
information do not
Victoria,
require
you're
a
being
second.
unruly and not allowing this to move
They
forward.
are
We have a
not
motion and a
debatable.
second.
They are not debatable, and though they may be accompanied by a brief explanation, no vote is taken for me to get an answer, and we do have a lawyer present. I have read Robert's Rules of Order. If you want to supply me with something from Robert's Rules of Order
Is
that
the
goes
associate
against
member
what
in the
I'm
room?
saying,
Is David Merrick in the room? I believe he's an attorney. Did she say they have a lawyer present? And they all look down the row. We can't see him, but that'd be interesting.
Huh. He abstains.
please do so. That's your duty as the chairman, is to inform me, as I've asked you a question, of what the laws are.
Answer her inquiry.
We have a
Say we're
motion
going to
and a
wait
second.
on your-
Can we have a vote?
Steve, it's very obvious that you don't like this girl. Like, and we can watch you not listening to anything that's happening in the room.
Yeah, because she just explained that nothing takes precedence and you can't make a motion to disregard
Yeah.
the inquiry. This issue needs dealt with because it would nullify everything else. So they just said that they're willing to waste everyone in this room's time just to continue this forward, which is really strange. Like, is that saying like, well, if you don't like what we're gonna do, sue us, and later you could determine that you were right? Is that seems to be the impression I'm getting here. This is very frustrating, so I could see why people would be a little bit upset here. And tempers could too. You can see everybody's kind of getting a little bit upset, agitated.
Yeah,
Or that
we did
they-
say that. I mean, we did have an answer from the attorney, but we have it on the agenda after the hearing. for the PROC, and we want to discuss it then, but she's not, doesn't seem to
Well, the reason
feel
this
like
is
it's-
relevant is because it directly affects our decision making.
Maybe we gotta do this before, just, I don't know.
It's already-
We have
I understand.
neighbors, we have
with you.
applicants
You know how it is to
here.
apply for.
This is obviously land use code, this is,
This is law.
this is
the
a
fact
key
that we are
land use
breaking the
code.
law.
People are mad, you're
No.
obviously with
What?
them.
No,
But
Steve.
what-
Oh, I did not get that the last time I watched that.
I missed it.
People are mad and you're obviously with them.
Oh, yeah.
Steve!
You're another.
Yeah.
So I don't think the planning commission is allowed to talk to each other outside the meeting. They shall not engage in ex parte communication regarding any advice or application in any quasi judicial proceeding. So maybe they could have talked about this beforehand, but they shall disclose it to the commission or put it in writing via email when they're talking in general, I think, amongst each other outside the meeting. So this is the appropriate time to discuss this.
Isn't that technically an ad hominem attack by saying you're a part of that group?
Yeah, it's really weird.
So
way-
that's
it's
attacking
a
her
weird-
character
It's a weird way to
by
deal
saying
with it.
she's associated with one group or another.
for standing up for the law.
Yeah. I mean, she's getting attacked all over the place, but that one's
I'm
right
frustrated.
there.
I'm not even in the room.
Is that, are we not abiding by our bylaws, you know?
So there are a couple different ways we're not abiding. Okay, so firstly,
Okay.
when we selected Tom Kay as chairman, that was a violation.
Yes, we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
Thank you,
Thank you, we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
thank you.
PROC, stay where you are, we're just gonna take 10 minutes.
Man, I wish we-
Recording stopped.
Thank you. That's going to fix everything. Let me see if I can turn up this mic.
So yeah, I wonder why they took a break right in the middle of her explaining explicitly what the two violations were. It's really weird, and hopefully we'll have some other footage. In the future, we're gonna send members to the meetings to record this stuff, because it's very strange that they take a break right here, right? Especially while she was gonna explain the two items that they were in violation of. One of which is the chair is not allowed to serve and violating the law. And the second is apparently there are some planning commission members that don't live in unincorporated areas of Delta County, which she would have I think she says that later. So I think we skip ahead a few minutes here.
Recording in progress.
That was like 10 minutes of no
Victoria,
audio.
Your complaint is noted, and I just want to ask, what is specifically your complaint about? My role?
My inquiry, my question
Yes.
that I'm making a motion, a secondary incidental motion, which means that it's relevant to be answered
What's your
before we
motion?
can. What laws allow us to act in violation of our bylaws?
I understand.
Because there are
That's not a motion,
state
it's a question.
statutes that tell us we are not allowed to break our bylaws. Robert's Rules of Order continuously states that our bylaws are our supreme governing body. If our bylaws go over Robert's Rules of Order, we follow our bylaws.
And what is clarification, what is your bylaws? I haven't heard anything of what specifically is being violated in the bylaws.
So there are two things. Your term as chair has expired, and therefore, and again, I wasn't educated the first meeting that I had here, and I was told that we could make an amendment, and it's a friendly amendment to vote you in. That's incorrect. So it was a violation of our bylaws. Secondly, the only people that are allowed to serve on this board are members who reside in unincorporated Delta County. So the people that
Okay. You're educated on this one.
Yep. That is section 5.1, the Planning Commission composition. In accordance with CRS 30-28-103, section 1, the board have established that the commission will be comprised of 9 regular members who reside in unincorporated areas of Delta County, 3 from each board district as appointed by the board to serve terms established by the board. It's very clear, and this is consistent with some other counties. I've identified Summit County and Arapahoe County that both have these same terms. And I think the principles are here that people who are affected by the laws shall be the ones that make the laws, so that we don't have rules for thee and not for me. And that's consistent across all levels of government. It also says that section 5.2, the board may appoint up to 3 associate members who reside in unincorporated areas of Delta County. So this is stated twice in the bylaws, and it seems like there are 2 members on the board who are not allowed there, and based on the assessor's data, it may be Tate Locke, who lives in Cedar Edge, and Kate Darlington, who lives in Crawford, both in the town limits.
Don't reside outside of city limits are breaking our bylaws.
Okay, so can we separate those 2 out? Because
Yes.
the incorporated versus unincorporated, to me, is a legal opinion. And I'm not sure your legal opinion will suffice to answer that right now.
What's the legal opinion? Like, do you live in the town or not?
Incorporated versus unincorporated is a legal opinion.
And so our land use codes they're regulating people in unincorporated.
Yeah, but
Delta
it's a
County.
legal opinion.
So it could regulate everyone in the
Yeah.
county. So I think people in the towns might want to pay attention here.
You gotta be careful what you say when you got the mic in front of you.
Careful, Mike.
Objection to the way we elected a chairman can be resolved right now if I will step down as chair. Is that fair? Is that fair? Will that address your problem?
If you
If
step
I step
down as
down right
chair, that section of the inquiry, that section of our illegality is solved.
now, okay, so if I do that, can we proceed with the proxy?
Like I said, to me, this is unethical and immoral for me with the information that I have to sit as we act outside of our capacity.
So if
We
I
are
step down,
bound
what's
by the bylaws.
what are we objecting in the bylaws?
Besides your chairmanship, that includes the residential status of the planning
But
commission.
again, that's a legal opinion, and we don't have quite yet.
I mean, in our bylaws, it states that you can only serve on this commission because this commission only determines things in unincorporated Delta County, that you must also reside in unincorporated Delta
Who
County.
doesn't?
100%.
Take it out.
That's a personal.
She doesn't. Is this who she's talking about?
He pointed at Kate.
I mean,
Did Artie just say kick him out?
No, he said who doesn't, and then he pointed at Kate and said she doesn't. So clearly she doesn't. And man, if I was a volunteer here, kind of with this hostility, I would just rescind myself. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know these laws. I'm going to leave the planning commission, and I'll leave the $50 on the table. Like, I don't need to be here. I don't know why I would be here. I guess I'm here now. I know why I'm here now, but I would just leave. Like, why would you put yourself in this kind of situation knowing that you're in violation of the bylaws?
It's really weird.
Super weird what's going on here.
Come on,
There have been people, including myself, but that is on the agenda to discuss later. So,
I'm
and the
trying to
and again, it's sort of back to the
get a
question.
compromise for me.
Okay, I cannot stand this. It's on the agenda to discuss later. Like, what does it matter at this point if they're discussing it now or later? And if they know that they can't move forward until they have a remedy or have some sort of normalcy, like.
I don't know why you.
What's the difference? Why is that
Why
even
wouldn't
an
you
argument?
just solve this? Why wouldn't you just,
Yeah.
as a group, solve this problem right now?
Yeah,
Because
it's uncomfortable and they don't want to face it.
And with all these new laws that we're looking at, 200 pages of laws, they need to have a situation where they identify an area that the law may not be being followed, and then have a productive way to solve that, and to come to an understanding as a group, and then to move forward with some sort of determination. And they're failing here, and hopefully, like, this is a learning experience for everyone here, how not to operate a quasi-judicial body.
Can we move forward with this? If I step down, please just answer my question. Can we move forward with if I step down?
No, because we're still not abiding by our bylaws.
You're still beating around the bush. Tell me
I saw, Victoria, you're presenting one thing fact. I saw a separate resolution that the commissioners had made
Yes, sir, you did.
that seemed to allow for the different residential distribution.
Well, and here's where I could reference that the assembly above us, which is the Board of County Commissioners, when they act outside of their capacity, which is to assign members within our bylaw terms, everything they have assigned is null and void.
Whoa.
So their assignment of the members that reside outside.
I hear what you're saying. Is the county attorney on hold?
Hold on a second. So she said that the county commissioners have put a resolution in place to allow the members to violate their bylaws? That's kind of what she just said there, that the county commissioners put forth a resolution so that they could the people that were in violation could continue to do that. That is wild to me. Wild. What the heck? What the heck, man?
We got to do some research after this.
Yeah, if somebody can find that resolution, that is trippy to me. Why wouldn't they just fix the problem instead of trying to, so when you don't like the laws, you just change them.
That's easy.
Noted. This is what we're trying to accomplish.
I think we'll find for this, because otherwise we should just move forward. You present a legal opinion, but we don't have a county attorney here to represent a separate opinion.
Our opinion and
I saw a resolution that's arguing something against what you said. It was a legally passed resolution. A legally passed resolution certainly matters, and it was recorded. And so I'm gonna say that that resolution carries weight. And you're presenting an argument, you may be true. I'm not gonna present a legal argument in opposition to that. I would ask the county attorney to do that. If he's not on hold, then I think we move this thing forward and this could be taken up in court later.
He said taken up in court
Sue
later.
sue us. That's what he said. Yeah, that's crazy.
Amongst us, who lives not in?
That's part of our discussion, when we have a discussion about what I want to figure out how we move forward. Are you satisfied?
Why didn't he answer the
Make a
question?
motion?
How we move forward is, like I said, I'm not knowledgeable of everything. I'm not a lawyer. But the information I do have goes against everything that you guys are telling me. So if you can provide me with legal proof, information that we are abiding by the law, then we can move forward as a legal entity. If we're not abiding by the law, anything we do here is a waste of our time.
It's illegal.
I think it's more like an innocent until proven guilty thing. If you can provide legal information.
I have.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Isn't that a criminal?
She's literally saying you're guilty and defend yourself. Her inquiry is, what gives us the right to violate our bylaws, right?
Yeah, and I think the innocent until proven guilty thing is for criminal charges.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah.
I'm no lawyer.
That an attorney can give us information ahead of this meeting, then fine. But in other words, let's move this thing forward, right?
So,
provide some legal
executive
information,
order, here we go.
get an attorney, and get with the county attorney.
Would you like somebody?
God, just walk away, Jake.
Victoria, I think we're at kind of an impasse. We've heard your opinion on whether this meeting should go on tonight. We've heard that you don't feel comfortable acting, or you don't feel ethical with the proceedings continue based on your assessment of the legal standard. That is not the opinion of everyone in this room. You can make a motion to end tonight's hearing or table it again. You can make a motion to change the order of the agenda, or you can choose to not vote on these matters because you don't feel like you want to be represented in what's happening. But
Weird.
Isn't that TK's responsibility to motion to change it? She's presented her query. Why does she have to motion?
Yeah, and that response to her was not quite accurate. She didn't say she didn't feel comfortable continuing the meeting, and she also didn't say that she wanted to end the meeting. She's asking where they get the authority to act illegally and asking them basically to have a discussion on this issue or remedy the issue. And everybody keeps skirting around that, and they haven't even busted out the bylaws and read them as a group. That's this whole thing is like surreal, super surreal.
you need to make a motion. You need to make a suggestion. Okay, so what is your motion?
Let her talk.
Is that I have a point of information that I'm looking for. That is a motion. It's a secondary incidental motion. And if you would like,
But, so I think the chair has answered your.
So for us to
This must
accept the
be
motion,
done.
we need a second.
No, you don't. So in Robert's Rules of Order, this action does
There it is again. There's the posturing. This guy's head's all the way back and he's looking at the ceiling. Steve is crossing his arms and leaning backward. Who's this guy in the plaid blue? I forgot his name.
Tate,
Tate. Okay, Tate is just bouncing his knees. And,
I think he knows because he lives in the town.
yeah, and Jake is still slouching.
Why
Tom
has
K is still, posing like this.
why has nobody stood
Harvey
up for
has
her?
his hands in his pocket. Katie still has her hands in her front. The lady in the middle's just twiddling her fingers together.
But TK did say that he would step down his chair to remedy the first problem. So the rest of the members should at least try to offer a solution here. This is like a solution-oriented body, right? They're trying to make determinations on land use and find solutions so that we, the people of the county, can do what we need to do to live and to survive. And this is the way they deal with confrontation. Is really strange. And I hope that they take two guys watching them make laws to heart, and they can find a way to act better in the future.
Yeah, Nikki says, how many times does she need to repeat herself? It was pretty clear to me what she was asking and what the procedure is to meet the request. She spells it out multiple times.
And it's Robert's Rules of Order. They should all know that, especially the chair should know this process. And he should know that he's slouched back in his chair and he's not taking command of this discussion, and he's letting this courageous person get totally berated here, and it's unacceptable. Like, I'm upset watching this.
How are you looking to proceed? Are you looking for the meeting to end?
Legally.
He has to talk honestly about,
Yeah.
are we following the laws here?
Yeah.
Resolutions every work, so.
No, Board of County Commissioners who are also not lawyers,
So,
and sent that to.
Point of order, please, point of order. I do have a statement that the county attorney has weighed in. It is on the agenda later after the procs have their hearing in front of you. But I will read one portion that addresses the issue. It says, CRS 30-28-103 addresses the membership requirements of Planning Commission members. It states, each of such members of the commission shall be a resident of the county. In resolution number 2018 R-025, the Board of County Commissioners directed the PC to ensure that such rules adopted are consistent with 30-28-103. The PC bylaws 5.1 is in part inconsistent with the state statute and inconsistent with the BOCC's directive. Additionally, without dispute, the BOCC has the authority to create a planning commission and appoint members within the limitations of state statute. Again,
Pause. So earlier in the week or later in the week, I can't remember where we are now, but the county attorney said that the state statutes are permissive. So as long as you're not violating the statute, it allows you to make more strict rules or rules as you see fit. And the Planning Commission is allowed to make rules as they deem necessary. So it's completely ridiculous here that he says that the county Planning Commission can't make rules that they deem necessary. That's in the state statute.
CRS 30-28-103, 1 and 2. The PC has no authority to adopt bylaws in conflict with state statute and the BOC's direction.
They're not in conflict.
Summary.
They're not?
They're not in conflict. They're not. And Summit County and Arapahoe County both have the same determinations. I'm sure if anybody searched throughout the rest of the state of Colorado or in any county, they would be very similar, because the principles are that rules for thee, not for me. People who are making rules and decisions for other people shall also be affected by those rules. This is like principles of law 101.
Hey, you're not a lawyer, buddy.
I should have been a lawyer, buddy.
The PC has no authority to limit its own membership to those people who live in unincorporated areas of the Delta County. To the extent that PC bylaws 5.1 limits membership to only those who reside in unincorporated areas of Delta County, it is void since it is outside the authority of the PC and conflicts with state statute. So in the county attorney's words, right here in the memo, then the state statute rules, meaning that Members just need to reside in Delta County, which they do based on 2018 R-025.
So that's the opinion from the county attorney, and we're gonna, I mean, unless, I think that.
Okay. So I don't mean to attack character here, but the last time I saw the county attorney like answer a question in person,
Hey now.
it looked like he was sleeping and somebody woke him up, and then he said, "Oh, I'll answer that question right now," and he came out with something that was like completely unrelated to the question. Oh, it was Nikki. Yeah, Nikki was asking a question, and yeah, and he just out of nowhere was like, "Ah, yeah, trees are green." Duh.
That's the only legal opinion that we have to follow tonight.
Ouch.
So that issue is off the table. Can we move forward if I step down as chair? Forever or just right now for this? For tonight and.
Ouch. TK, ouch. So he knows that he's violating the laws. I'm sure he's read this. And his initial motion was, or initial statement was, that I step down as chair, which remedies that problem. And that's what he should do. And actually the members should make him step down. But now he's like, oh, well, maybe just for the day. So that was the 9th. He's been in violation for 6 days now.
Okay, we're still on the agenda to discuss it at the end, right? For the proc hearing right now.
Okay.
Will you accept that?
My biggest question right there was
That
that.
answers the question. It does answer the question. So, I'm trying to address you beyond that.
And if somebody citing a document doesn't answer the question.
Unless it's state statute, because I can cite here, state statute, Title 30, Section 28, 104, says that the Planning Commission shall adopt such rules and regulations governing its procedure as it may consider necessary or advisable, and shall keep records of its proceedings, which shall be open to inspection by the public at all reasonable times. So they can make their own rules, and they can specially limit people to just unincorporated Delta County, which they have done in 2019.
Yes, for us to be within our bylaws, you must.
So I'm going to resign for this hearing tonight.
Just
I'm
for
going to
tonight.
have the vice chairman to take his.
Just for tonight.
Move on to the proc hearing.
Thank you.
We'll keep moving forward.
But before we like to continue,
So
I
we're
would
gonna
just like to.
recognize other people right now.
I know, I just have one
No,
state
you don't have to.
statute.
We're done. We're done. We're done.
She shared
We
her
read
opinion.
it. We're not. Victoria, if you need to, please give it.
You're not an attorney. There it is
Saying
again.
everything that I've said and sending out the information I have, Colorado state statute will hold us liable if we are breaking the law because now we are knowledgeable.
So you hear that? That's very important. She just gave them official notice that if they continue to proceed, they willingly violating the laws.
Opinion from a qualified attorney. You are not. So please don't keep quoting what Colorado law
Yes,
is
I
going
don't
to make
have
us
to be an
do.
attorney to read something.
You're not an attorney. That would be practicing law, and that's illegal.
We are, Jacob.
It's not illegal to interpret the law.
Thank you. Mr. Queen, do you have any questions of staff? On the problem.
Ha 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 ha. How respectful.
It's
How
not,
respectful.
it's not illegal to interpret the law. That is their only job. Just saying.
Are we okay with where we're at? We're gonna open up public comment. I'm gonna read from the list.
Oh, I have another. Section 5.4B says any member of the commission may be removed at any time by action of the board in its sole discretion for non-performance of the duty or misconduct. And it also allows the county commissioners to remove people from the board if they're ineligible. But I thought that they were allowed to remove people for ineligibility. It doesn't specifically say that here. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. You should be ashamed of yourself for even speaking.
Or reading the laws.
Get out.
Okay.
Now. Yeah. So I just want to make sure everybody knows we cut out all of the part where they were actually speaking to the people who came to that meeting for the business they needed to do. So this kind of fast forwards right to the saucy stuff again.
And that section's actually on the Delta County government's website. That's the only part of this meeting they decided to post. So if you'd like to review how they handled that applicant, then you can go to the county website or to a4ll.org, and we have that posted on our site as well. I want to make some comments about that. At no time did I ever hear anybody in the Planning Commission quote sections from the land use code that they were discussing. And they made a lot of discussion about fire safety and road use, and that's not really in the code. If they have issues with traffic, they're supposed to just refer that to a traffic study or recommend a traffic study. So it did seem similar to the way they're running this portion of the meeting, the way they ran that portion. Nobody seems to be quoting the law or even following the law or referencing the law, and that's the reason why we're now here paying attention to this, is because we have an issue with the laws and how they were put in place. So you could see that for yourself by going to either one of those spots.
I think it hasn't. At the end, I'll just do a double check at the end, see if anyone else wants to speak. I have Ron Hayes first.
Yeah, I live at 2153 Teston Road. Through all of this, when I first found out about it from Brenda, I guess in the back of my mind it's, wow, that's a great idea, and Delta County needs it. But what's in it for me? We just built a wonderful house right there. Spent a lot of money on it. Money which was hard earned. Now I see that the county won't even fix the signs. You're not even going as far as where the major intersections are, where the accidents are. You're basing the traffic count on a 2-year-old study, and I can list right now 12 teenagers that have just gotten their driver's licenses from these subdivisions. They're driving it every day. So I think the traffic counter needs to be out there. You don't take into consideration that that is zoned ag. There's no signs in that part of the county because they get knocked over by this large ag equipment and they don't get set back up. When the stop sign was stolen at the corner of Snaffle Bit, there in Testament Road, it took 10 days to get it replaced. That's, I just see the disappointment, I'm also on the board of the Elks, and ever since we required a security guard at our events, nobody's booked one. So that knocked us out of that. The club manager just verified.
This is a little bit off topic, but for us, what we're trying to do, but I'm just curious about that. Are they requiring, well, you got to pay for the guy's wage, right? So people.
That was probably a city thing, right? Delta City required a security guard to be at the Elks Lodge. And
nobody running an event or wanting to produce an event would want to pay for the hourly wage of somebody.
I'm sure that was in there. So, over-regulation tends to stifle.
Yeah, business.
Yeah.
Like that. But that's neither here nor there. You want to do a traffic count? Come sit in my front yard all day long, sir. I mean, what you read is awesome, but that's not Testament Road and 1600 Road tomorrow. You got to take into consideration in September too, during harvest, silage, there was corn trucks running today down 1600 Road that they're taking to Foster Farms. It's not just seasonal, it's daily.
You direct sales.
So yeah, I'm directing to the whole crowd. I'm not singling anybody out, but my disappointment started off the bat with this meeting to know if this is even a moot point, because what she brought up is legitimate. So, that's.
Thank you.
We all could be wasting.
Did you hear that little tiny clap in the background? No, not yours.
No, yeah.
Who was clapping?
Everybody should have been clapping.
Yeah.
Thanks, Victoria, for standing up for the law.
All of our time right here, right now, until that's investigated. So I think on that, I'll just be quiet, and I welcome my
Abstain.
property to any of you guys that wanna come out there during the day and sit and watch. You know, it's nice, it's peaceful. I don't think what they're planning is gonna hurt anything, but you're not seeing the whole picture. And I look around this room and I can honestly say, I'm third generation California Mason. There isn't anybody in here that's lived out there longer than I have. And any occupation that can be done out there, I've done. I've even driven a tractor, knocked over a sign in a mailbox. But it was in my heart to always try to go back and do the right thing and put them back up, you know? Who's to say when they're gonna move cows down those roads? You're not looking at the big picture. So that's where I'm gonna stand. Thank you.
I think what he says here is pretty. It was hard to understand what he said. This is the third time I've heard it, but I think he's saying that it's hard for the planning commission to see the whole picture because they don't live in the area. And he said, you guys can come down and sit on my front porch and hang out and kind of try to get a feel for the decision you're making. And that's profound now that I hear this. I think this is the third time now. Because that's one of the things that we're trying to push for here is the people that can make the best decisions because they have the most information are the people around the areas that are being changed. And so that's Summit County has area planning commissions. We used to have area planning commissions, and this gentleman is making a case for that right here. The people that can best determine how a change of use in the neighborhood is going to affect everything are the people who sit on their front porch every day.
Yeah, Nikki points out that look at their posture. It's attentive now. Like straight up, look at all these people.
They are. They're paying attention.
They're being respectful.
Forward. They're all leaning forward, except forwardish.
They're trying to do business.
Yeah, and they're being respectful. And what he said was very important. They don't have the full picture, and there's no real way they could get the full picture unless they came to his property and hung out.
Yeah, but why can't she get the that same attention when bringing up all of these violations?
I think that's a question best left to the planning commission.
Defensive posturing. That's very clear. When somebody gets uncomfortable, I don't want any of that. Let's move on. Let's just put it off until later. I don't want to address this because it's way too much fire for me. But I'm not going to say that. Evelina says, yes, that is why we need neighbors on area planning committees to decide what happens in the neighborhood.
100%.
Agreed.
Jerry Kittinger. They left. Is there anyone else? I've run through my list. Cindy and Zach Brock and Brenda. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this?
I would have one more.
Oh, we had a power outage, the second of the night, so we lost power and time and audio here.
Yeah, for a long time. Look, they're doing business, and they're not even recording it.
And that jumps to 27:41. You can jump a minute ahead.
I mean, it just seems like a year.
Year on average over the year, so you could. That's on average over the year.
That's the private business.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of restrictions.
We're gonna start restricting some private business activity.
I hear you.
Not that an overuse and having it be a real nuisance to the neighborhood is not an issue, but when we get into controlling private business interests, I don't like.
Well, we did at the asphalt plant, we restricted their private business, so.
Well, for reasons that they're committed, right? They were secret drivers, that's why.
Are they debating?
What the fuck are they talking about?
I think they're debating the difference between commercial and home business. Because the asphalt plant is clearly a commercial plant doing business with the public. But that is a fine line. Like, what is the difference between commercial and residential, and how do we define that? Can we look to our land use codes for a clear definition?
No, we need to look at their past history and compare it to other decisions they've made rather than looking and referencing the document that they're painstakingly painstakingly making for them to follow.
So are you saying that this body operates on case law or on precedent? What precedent was set before and not on constitutional or found?
Here's a good point. If they're referencing other case law, other instances, what was the year that they worked with that commercial property?
I don't know, but
And
they did reference case precedent and not the law.
Are they using that as a reference when the land use code was outdated?
I don't know. These are deep questions that we'd need a lawyer to interpret.
Yeah, what regulations were those projects bound to?
Does anybody want to join? We could have 2 people and a lawyer watch people make laws.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
No, I just, as part of the traffic management plan, I would like to see signage, but I think you had that in there.
I want to see your marketing plan. I want to see your financial portfolio. Are you Christian? I need to know that.
I'd like to point to section 2.5, the non-code.
Are you a part of that Facebook group? That one Facebook group?
And I'd like to make you put signage based on the code.
And I would like, I don't know that we can require it, but I'd sure like to see your advertising. You would do recommended routes.
Your advertising.
I know you hate giggling, but
No, I don't hate giggling. Like, Steve, come on, dude. What are you doing? Like, yeah, okay. Maybe they have a really great event and it's a horrible experience for people for one day, and we could probably learn from that by being neighbors and talking it out. But what is the issue that they're trying to solve right at this very moment?
Well, and give them a break a little bit, because this particular commission, especially Schrock, has been on this commission for a long time, and they're not used to having a new set of code books, and they probably are used to doing business based on precedent, based on what worked in the past, and trying to make similar decisions and basing their judgments off that. But sorry guys, you got to keep up. We're 2 years deep now on a land use code that you're actively working on revising, so get with the program here.
True.
For people coming from Montrose or coming from Great Junction.
What kind of balloons you want? Blue or?
But getting it away from Chestnut and getting it away from kids and bicycles the best you can in your own advertising makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. For your interest and for everybody else's interest.
Do you feel like that would be covered under the traffic control?
Well, I think it ought to be, but I mean, it's like you guys aren't flying with this stuff I bring up, even though it's eminently sensitive.
What does that mean? You guys aren't flying with the stuff that I bring up, even though it's imminently sensitive? Did I hear that right?
I think that's a legal determination.
But it's sort of up to them. I'm not sure we can require fully advertised, but, I mean, I originally thought about specified routes, and nobody was gonna go with that. Although we have done that, we did that, tried to do it on
Precedent.
the solar side.
No impact fee today, Pardon? Impact fee deal? All these
No, they asked them to take a look at that, and the guys said they saw everything, and so. It's not, unless their signage, that would be an impact.
So I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval, to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners for said subdivision,
Did he say said subdivision?
Yeah, or sad. They're not talking about that, but I think he corrects it.
subdivision, the event center with the
following conditions, if you'll read off the record.
Condition 1, condition that rooms and RV spaces be short-term rentals, and if they are to be long-term, a separate application be submitted. Condition 2, condition that a fire mitigation plan be submitted and approved by the fire chief. Condition 3, that music and drink be done by midnight. Condition 4, that a maintenance agreement with UVWA is on file. Condition 5, that they work with the county engineer to establish a mutually agreeable decision on traffic control. Condition 6, that documentation that the building plans meet the fire code. There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, put it to a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I'm gonna have to abstain from voting due to a conflict of interest, and due to our bylaws, I have to state on the record what my conflict of interest is, and that is part 3 of A 7.2. I'm gonna have to abstain from voting because this commission goes by Robert's Rules of Order, and the laws that I want to quote on the record that constitute me abstaining from voting are the Colorado State Constitution Amendment 41, A through E, Ethics in Government, State Statute 30-28-104, State Statute 18-8-404, and 18-8-405.
I hope they were taking notes.
Can't hear it. This was the third power
Recording in
outage.
progress.
So through the grapevine, a lot of action happened while the microphone was off. Isn't that convenient? We're gonna put in a formal complaint for that, and they're gonna need to produce the business that they were working on while the microphone was off, because they can't be doing business without it being off or on. So yeah. Somebody in that meeting attacked Mr. Lightfoot and told him that he's a part of that group, or insinuated that he was a part of that group.
Was that during the meeting or after?
That was right here. That was when he put down his gavel.
Wow.
18-8-404 and 18-8-405.
I'll just let it go again. So here's the gavel. That's Mr. Lightfoot saying, no.
Oh yeah, they are getting into it there.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, they called him out, and for no reason. He's just sitting there listening.
Tensions are high, man. This is they're breaking the law and they know it. Yeah, it's
No, I think it was Steve. Alienated Mr. Lightfoot. Yeah. Wild. And that was all muted and wasn't captured. So I actually cut this video right when their feed went back online, so we could only watch what we just saw.
They are required to produce audio recordings of the entire meeting if anybody asks. It's part of their bylaws. So anybody could ask for the audio recording. It's I think the statute says audio. They may record with video, but they have to produce that section of it, especially since they weren't at break. I still think they should record the break time too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what's this fella's name with the camera back there?
Brandon.
Yeah, they're gonna have to buy the footage off of Brandon so that they can piece their audio back together.
Ah.
Yeah, Brandon put $100,000 price tag on that.
Reasonable. You know, it's $1,000 a day from the time that they recorded the meeting.
Yeah.
I think we should be fair.
Yeah.
$1,000 a day since the day of the infraction.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's the land use code. If you're not following, that's how much you're gonna have to pay if they can prove it.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We're gonna bring back to the table. We have on our agenda Steve Planning Commission bylaws. We'll take it to Carl.
Oh, it's gonna get juicy.
Actually, Bobby.
We just have one sentence from the county attorney. Again, this is the memo from the county attorney confidential and privileged legal advice. However, one sentence can be put here. A planning commission officer who has served 2 years in a particular position is ineligible to be re-elected to that position until after 1 year has passed.
Clear. As clear.
In light of the,
So I just want to point this out. Did you hear that? That little noise? That was Tom K. rocking back in his chair, saying, this is the first I've heard of this.
Why did they wait till now just to read the one sentence? That's weird.
No,
She said, I have one sentence to this whole meeting agenda item.
Yeah. So let's all be really quiet while we listen to this, okay?
in light of,
You get it? You get it?
Are you sure that was a and not a
the debate this evening, it would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair, that you defer this item and ask for an executive session with the county attorney to actually get legal advice from the county's legal counsel.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah. We'll make a motion to do what Carl said.
Dude. Come on, man. Just go the extra inch. It's just an inch.
Well, he's not allowed to even really participate in the discussion based on the bylaws. I think he's just there to take notes and provide some clarification on issues that he presents. So to take a motion from him is kind of out of order. He at least needs to make the motion.
Oh, yeah, that's straight up illegal. Yeah.
Well, it's a weird interpretation of the law.
Well, somebody can give you a suggestion, right?
Yeah.
But then it has to become your own. You can't say, I'm going to do what he said.
No, that's how if you're going to make a motion, you have to clearly explain the motion explicitly. You can't just say what he said.
And
you shouldn't.
We're in a meeting. Like I said, that's the weird thing about all of this. That's the posturing, the verbiage, the bullying, and just honestly, just the whimsical way these meetings are ran is my number one main concern. So if you whimsically do a vote or you motion to change something, what are they doing with our land use codes?
So the discussion is we'll come together with John Mayer. We've had to do this before in the past. Go to the big man, we'll ask him all questions and
But the way it is right now, you can serve 2 years, then just not serve a year, but you can always be reelected back to serve another 2 years.
Well, how did she know that?
She must have read the law.
How does she fucking know that?
Ooh, he's getting heated.
Dude, she is explaining her knowledge right there.
Yeah, she knew the whole time.
She's explaining. She knows what's happening.
She knew the whole time. And if for anybody who wants to reference section 12.1 explains the functions of the planning staff, it does say for the commission, the planning staff shall at a minimum. So you could add a lot more in here of what they can do. So I guess the way I'm interpreting this law today, he can provide some guidance.
Yeah, but my only point is she's aware of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
She knows what Victoria is referencing.
Yeah, and that actually didn't get read when Victoria was bringing that up, did it?
No.
I didn't hear it.
As long as you have a year gap in between, correct?
That is correct, and if the chair
And Carl knows.
vacates.
And they all said yes.
The vice chair becomes the chair, and then the planning commission elects a new vice chair.
Oh, I am getting so mad the more I think about this. The way they treated her when they all knew that this was fact.
Yeah, and they could have just dealt with this in this manner, this is a productive manner to deal with this.
Well, it took the lawyer reading what
One
they all
sentence.
what they all knew.
One sentence.
Yeah, I think they were just waiting for the lawyer to provide an out for them, and they didn't. So now they're like, oh, okay, I'll cooperate now.
Why wasn't that one sentence read in the first 20 minutes of this heated debate that was wasting everyone's time when they could have just had this exact same discussion? Then they should have made this the top priority of the meeting.
They
Deal
were
with the
stalling for
legality.
a loophole.
It's super weird, man. Deal with the legality of the governing body first. Make sure you're good, like you check your tire pressure in your car. You don't drive until you make sure it's safe and legal.
So would that, if that did happen, would that individual just fill out the rest of that term of that person and then still have an additional 2 years? Or would it be from the time that they took over that position would be 2 years?
That's not clear.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Just sorry.
But I will also add, the planning commission is not obligated to have bylaws. So that's something that you may.
That's the best thing ever. He says if you don't like the laws, you should just repeal the codes and just do, operate based on precedent and what's been working. I'm glad Carl's finally catching up because that's what we've been saying here. If you don't like the laws, you're not obligated to have the laws. And state constitution actually doesn't obligate us to have any zoning laws. And the zoning plan that it does actually statutorily allow us to make have to be based on the master plan. The principles of the master plan should be codified into code based on the zoning plan. Thanks, Carl. I'm really glad. They're all catching up.
Good work, Carl.
Also want to be thinking about, one, if you want to amend your bylaws.
Okay.
Obviously, one thing relative to the membership is not consistent with the statute. So that would be one thing. And then if you wanted to have a different conversation about how the chair or vice chair elections work, you could have that conversation as well, provided it's consistent with statute.
Man, we really like to have this conversation as well. I would really like to have this conversation as well about how we address our land use codes. Because, we could amend them, or we could not have them, or we could, find ways to make them so that they work for us. Great point, Carl.
I have a question.
Uh-oh, not this again. Oh. You got the lawyer ready?
I'm sitting back.
Where's the lawyer?
All right, let it rip.
So, from what I've read, the planning commission, okay, I'll reference, Colorado state statute. Colorado state statute,
Look at TK.
You did what I did.
Look at TK. Look at him. Ready? You looking? Look at Tom K. He's at the bottom left. He's the person that he's not supposed to be chair, but he's chair.
the state statute, states that the planning commission
He's chair now.
shall adopt such rules and regulations governing its procedures
Just
as
shaking
may
his head.
consider necessary or advisable, and shall keep a record of its proceedings, which shall be open to inspection by the public at all times. The Board of County Commissioners has authority to employ experts and staff, and shall pay such expenses as may be deemed necessary for carrying out the powers conferred and the duties prescribed in this article. So if the planning commission shall adopt such rules and regulations governing its procedures, what are those rules and regulations?
Hardy?
Who crumpled up the paper?
Hardy.
Come on.
As necessary, or as it deems necessary.
Yes, but it still shall adopt a
As
set.
it deems
That's
necessary.
the reason for my recommendation.
So what are
The county's legal.
As it deems necessary. As we deem necessary.
Isn't he interpreting law?
He is. And
He's not a
actually
lawyer.
Interpreting it the wrong way because he's saying that they could remove that as they deem necessary. That state statute doesn't permit that. It says you shall adopt them as you deem necessary, not that you shall just repeal them as you deem necessary. Problem we're having right here too. Gosh dang it.
Yeah, so what is Jake doing, nodding and waving his hands? I don't know. What is TK shaking his head no while Victoria is speaking? Why is he doing that? Just look at her. Just listen. Even if you hate what she's saying and hate the fact that she's on that side, just don't move your head. Just look at her. Look at her.
We're gonna ask you. You don't know that. That'll be testing.
Got 8 years.
Yeah, motion in a second.
There's a motion
He's
to
been on the
second.
commission
last
8
thing
years.
I'll say is that if we do make any
In
changes to our
violation.
bylaws, it will be publicly notified. We will have a public hearing on it. We're not gonna go to this exec session and do it with all bylaws, so folks in the room and online don't think that's what's gonna happen. Just know we need to square some things away. Motion for a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed?
What was that motion?
That brings us to D, Department Report. Carl.
I don't know.
A couple items.
Motion was.
Motion was murder.
If anybody heard that or knows what the heck that motion was.
Nikki,
It was-
that's what he said is. What he's what,
I didn't actually catch it. It was motion to
motion to
and then next.
and then slam your paper down because that's how you do it.
First of all,
He's
at
learning.
the last board meeting, the board asked to have an item on March 21st regarding the solar moratorium, which effectively expired March 6th. It was initially established for 6 months or until land use code was adopted as standard, which has not happened. And so there will be an item on the March 21st agenda for the board to consider extending that moratorium for 6 months. Also, they given direction for me to put out an RFQ for surveying services, primarily for subdivision reviews. So we'll be doing that. And then also, finally, the land use code, there is a work session tomorrow at 1 p.m. with the Board of County Commissioners. And they'll be reviewing a red line of the 2021 land use code, further direction on March 1st at the work session following the public hearing.
Not March 1st, April.
No, March 1st.
It was from March first.
I'm sorry. Okay, I said you were public hearing, work session.
So once the board completes their review of the red line, whatever they want to add, delete, modify, it will be referred to your planning commission, and you'll have up to 30 days to report back to the Board of County Commissioners, and then they will have a public hearing and take action.
So at this point, all public hearing on land use code would be at the Board of County Commissioners.
That is correct.
Are they uncomfortable about the public showing up to this meeting?
Yeah, the awkward silence. They're like, oh gosh.
Oh, thank you.
Oh no.
Oof.
What are we intended to do then?
Well, they're gonna send us around.
And what do we do?
So
He says, if they send us a red line, then what do we do? Haven't they been doing this process for 2 years?
didn't he say 8 years? He's been doing it for 8 years.
Well, Steve Schrock said, or Tate said he'd been doing this for 8 years earlier in this conversation. But I think Steve Schrock's the one that's talking here, and he seems to be unclear with what happens when the county commissioners send them the new code, which is odd because they've been doing this for a while now. And another thing to point out and note here is, so they went back to the 2021 code on March 1st in their work session. They are going to present a red line copy of the entire code on the 10th. So in 9 days, they're going to perform the task that took years to do. And the real question on my mind is, why is this being pushed through so fast? Why aren't they allowing the community the time to review this, to have proper input, and to come to an agreement on what codes are going to work with us? Clearly, this commission is going to need time to get up to speed with how these codes work and how they should adjust their workflow and their processes to coincide and to be in agreement with the new laws that they're going to have to make legal determinations on.
So the best reason that I've heard so far, and I'm not saying it's a good one, is sunken cost. That just simply means they have spent so much money on it, they can't go back.
Isn't that a logical fallacy?
Yes.
The sunken cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was a
when
good one.
When the Titanic busts a hole, like, you can't go back now.
No. No. Double down. Yep. Evelina says, double down, baby.
The way the statute is written is you accept, reject, or suggest modifications, and then the board will take that into consideration at a public hearing.
That's some pretty solid direction. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. You accept, reject it, or
This is what
public
you were
opinion.
supposed to do before. too.
Yeah.
Same
We
thing.
have 30 days to do that. That's how we understand it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I suppose no comment.
Could be.
But that would be an accept.
Are there any other commissioner comments, requests, referrals?
Huh.
I have a question, where's Lane? Lane had cataract surgery, and today he's an associate.
And they're violating HIPAA. No, I'm just kidding.
Victoria's sitting member, Lane wouldn't have voted tonight. So the rest of missed all that.
Oh, Japan. I'll try to have some meeting. We're adjourned.
Well, that was very informative and entertaining, and I hope everybody here thought so too. Again, I want to put the disclaimer out that we don't mean to disparage or insult anybody here. Obviously, this is an important topic for all of us, and we're doing the best we can to analyze this situation, provide some entertaining feedback, and to try to really hold everybody to account here. If we're going to move forward with such an onerous land use code, everybody best get up to speed pretty quick. If not, we could take our time here, involve the public. I know that our alliance is ready and willing to help work on this land use code with the county. If there's a sunken cost issue, we can help alleviate some of that because there's a bunch of volunteers that are passionate and now well read on this topic. Actually, probably as well read as anybody on the commission, if I were to wager a guess. So thanks again for joining us. I don't know if you had any other discussion here, Jake, but
No, just thanks for watching. Your input is always welcomed and encouraged. Please, throw comments in the comments, and as admins of this page, we're going to read it and react as best we can. Please go to a4ll.org and check out our videos. We're posting stuff from the community, stuff from us, stuff from the county. On a regular basis. We're trying to make that page up to date and useful to everybody. And please follow us on YouTube. And I believe the account is A4LL.
Alliance for Land Liberty, either one. You can look them up.
Alliance for Land Liberty. All right, thank you so much for watching. We'll do another one of these pretty soon. There's some good stuff and some meetings that we recorded. So we'll see you later.
Thank you.